Hi, welcome to How to Love Yourself, where we believe that self love isn't selfish, but is the pathway to nourishment so that we can give more, but we can give it fully, we can give it freely, and we can give it joyfully. Today, I'd like to talk about stepping into your worthiness. And the way that I define worthiness is by the treatment we make ourselves available for. And so when we are stepping into our unworthiness, we make ourselves available for treatment like judgment, like criticism, like not feeling seen or understood, for people to not trust our intentions, to assume the worst of us. But when we step into our worthiness, we make ourselves available for connection, for understanding, for respect, for the types of treatment that we want to be receiving. And so first I'm going to start off with a mind-body connection exercise to get us into the posture. And I'm going to invite you to put a hand on your chest and a hand on your gut region of your body. This helps us to connect our second and third brains. There's lots of wisdom and information being held in those spaces. And so when we go into a mind-body connection practice with those spaces being activated by our touch, it helps us to engage that wisdom. I'm just going to invite you to start with a couple of breaths in. I'm going to breathe into that belly and breathe out. I'm going to breathe in again and then back out. Breathe into that belly one more time. And breathe out. I'm going to draw my attention to different parts of the body, and I'm going to invite you to just notice what's going on in those spaces. Are they tight? Are they loose? So we're going to draw that attention up into the head and the facial region of the body. I'm going to notice the areas around my eyes and my forehead. Is it tight? Is it loose? Is it tense? Is it scrunched? I'm going to let those muscles all relax. Then we're going to invite you to pay attention to those muscles in the neck region of the body, and even feel free to give it a little stretch, just like I am now. That's where a lot of us hold some tension, is in those neck muscles. And so when we breathe in, fill them with tension. When we breathe out, let them relax. And breathing in again, we are going to put our attention into the chest region of the body, noticing any tension, any looseness, any sensations you might feel. Is there any pain? Does it feel resonant? Does it feel connected? I know that I'm very present when my chest trunk region kind of feels like a cave. Like I feel there's an echo. It's almost like I feel totally aligned, and there's a cavity where my breath goes, and it feels much more resonant when I am present. Okay, I'm going to take a deep breath in and then breathing back out. And drawing that attention into the pelvic region of the body. It can be the front pelvic or the back pelvic. Notice any tension, notice any pain. Just breathe into it. And back out. And we're drawing attention to the legs and the feet and the lower extremities of the body. We're going to breathe in and breathe out. And just taking a moment of gratitude for our feet, for our legs, and for all of the ways they allowed us to move and to do things. Just think about all of the ways you've used your legs already today. You use them to walk to the bathroom, to walk down the stairs, to pick up your child, to engage with a family member, to draw closer to someone, to pull away from something that was undesired. Thank you, legs, for allowing me to move. Thank you, legs, for helping me to be autonomous, for giving me choices. I want to draw our attention to the places of pressure, wherever you are sitting or standing or laying. I feel pressure in the middle of my back from this couch. I also feel pressure on the bottom of my bum and on my legs. And in this moment, I just feel the support of the chair holding me. In this moment, I am safe. In this moment, I'm connected. I am free from catastrophe. I am free from criticism. I am free from judgment. I'm just safe right here inside of my body, sitting in this chair. Now in the second portion of this, I am going to invite you to think about something, a person or a relationship that feels like a point of tension. And I want to walk you through something called responsibility management. It's just a couple of statements that I want to remind you of as true when you're dealing with difficult personalities. Sometimes difficult personalities want us to take responsibility for things that really don't belong to us. And so I just want to remind you of what does belong to you. And when I say these statements, I just want to invite you to say them either out loud or quietly to yourself. But I will provide some space for you to repeat those statements, because whatever you say, your cells are listening. And the words you speak are powerful. So the first one is, I am not responsible to teach adults how to behave. It is my responsibility to decide what treatment I will tolerate. I'm just going to breathe that in. And we're going to breathe it out. It is not my responsibility to teach adults how to behave. But it is my responsibility to decide what treatment I will tolerate. It is not my responsibility to convince someone that my needs are valid. It is my responsibility to identify those needs and be receptive to having them met. And I'm even going to invite you to move your body language into a receptive position, as if I'm receiving having those needs met. So it is not my responsibility to convince someone that my needs are valid. It is my responsibility to identify those needs and be receptive to having them met. I'm going to breathe in and just release that responsibility that doesn't belong to me. And breathe in again. And one more statement here. I do not need anyone else's permission to have needs. But I do need to give myself permission to have them. On this one, I'm even going to practice tensing up when I do the not statement, and then I will practice loosening out when I do the release statement. So, I do not need anyone else's permission to have needs. But then the release is, I do need to give myself permission to having them. Now I'm going to invite you into a couple of tense and release exercises, and what this looks like is just for a few moments on the tense, I want you to think about all the stress, all the weight that you're carrying, and I want you to tense up all the muscles that you possibly can as tight as you can. And then on the release, you're going to breathe it out, and you are going to release those tenses. You are going to unburden yourself, and you are going to allow your muscles to relax. And this is teaching your body that I choose, that I control what I hold on to, and I also control what I let go of. So on the in breath, we're going to tense and hold. 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to release it. On the in breath again, we're going to tense, holding all that weight, all that stress, all that burden, and you're going to let it release on the out breath. One more time, we're going to hold all that stress, all that tense, and we're going to let it release on the out breath. I don't know about you, but each time I did it, I felt that on the tense, I had a little bit less tension. I had a little bit less that I was holding in each of the tense portions of the exercise, meaning that when I released it, I was actually letting go of some of that tension. I'm going to move into one last piece of this mind-body connection exercise. And what I want you to do is imagine an area where you are feeling isolated, in an area where you are feeling stressed or where there is contention. And I just want you to imagine the people around you in your life being so supportive. And I don't know what support looks like for you around this issue, but support can look like people championing you. Support can look like people agreeing with you, people seeing you, people validating you, people understanding your perspective. Support can look like people coming alongside you practically. It can look like they're showing up and they're spending time with you exactly where you need it. No performance, nothing else but being exactly where you are. I want you to imagine that these supports are getting bigger and stronger and more present, more available, and you can relax, you can release. Now I want you to imagine a bigger circle of support. Maybe this includes acquaintances, maybe it includes coworkers, maybe it includes people that you know from the community in the gym or at the store, or people that you just see on your day-to-day basis. Maybe you don't have close relationships with them, but you see those people as potential supports. You see them as positive connections, and they're smiling at you, and you're giving love to you, and they're sending goodness your way. They're sending support your way, and it is holding you up. It is lifting you up. Just like the chair that you are sitting on, it is holding you up. I want you to breathe in and receive that support, and then we're going to breathe out and relax. I'm going to invite you to think and expand your viewpoint to even people that you have never met, people that you couldn't even think of. There are people that have the solution to your problem, and they want to give that solution. There are people that exist who would do nothing but delight in giving you a solution to your problem. That solution gives them meaning in the world. It gives them purpose. They want to meet your need. It is a joy for them. It is a delight for them. There are people out there that you don't even know that you can meet tomorrow, you can meet next week, you can meet tonight, that you can meet online, that you can meet through a friend of a friend. There are people that want to help you meet your need. And it's just a matter of being available to meet that person, and you will meet them. And I just want you to expand that idea of support. It just is beyond my what I know. It's beyond what I can see. It's beyond the experiences that I've had. The potential is infinite. And I want you to look out and imagine all of these people, all these infinite options, all these infinite possibilities of ways you can receive support. And I just want you to take it in. I want you to let it fill you. I want you to let it just affect your whole being. All of these positive intentions towards you. It is a delight to meet you. It is a delight to be with you. I want you to hold space for that. And I want you to notice that feeling of stress, that feeling of need, that feeling of lack is diminishing. It is dissipating, because there's so much support. It doesn't make sense to be worried. There's so much support. How could I fail? There will always be another person to step in wherever the gap is. And I deserve to have those needs met. I am worthy to have those needs met. I am worthy of kindness. I am worthy of compassion. I am worthy, and I receive it. Now I'm just going to invite you to sit and soak that in as long as you need to, and enjoy that feeling. You can pause the video and return to the teaching whenever you are ready. Now we're going to move into our teaching portion. And what I want to talk about today is worthiness as it connects to having your needs met. And so something that really struck me and taught me a lot is when my son was born. And I'm watching this innocent baby boy just tell me what he needs. There's no hesitation in him reaching out to mama and telling mama what he needs. And then when I meet his needs, he receives it. And I can't help but think about how many times in my life was I trained out of my authentic expression of my needs and trained to not receive those needs being met, whether that was from being shamed because of those needs, whether it was because the needs weren't available to me in the environment. So I had to learn to not ask for those needs to be met. Or maybe those needs came with strings attached, and that felt really yucky. Maybe someone meeting my needs meant that there was an expectation in return of what I had to give. And so that having that need met and receiving nurture, maybe that actually felt like poison to my body. And so my body learned, nope, we can't ask for that. And so my intention for today is to talk through several different types of needs, give some examples of it, and I want to talk about some evidence either in your time today or from your experiences in the past that can help you maybe identify or get down to the bottom of if that is a need missing from your life, so that you can then be powerful to go on the journey of getting that need met. So where I'm going to start here is the first example of needs. They are survival needs. This is what people typically think of when you're talking about needs. You're talking about food, your water, your shelter, your clothing, access to materials, and then of course being physically safe from harm. So these are the ones that everyone typically validates. If you don't have food in your house, that means your needs aren't getting met. If you are homeless, that means your needs aren't getting met. Like, that's something that's really easy for people to validate. So the need block can kind of be identified if you have experienced homelessness, if you have gone a certain amount of time without food or without water, without clothing. Those are experiences that are easy to look at and say, oh, wow, I didn't have that need. Maybe I wasn't physically safe from harm. Either I grew up in a neighborhood that wasn't safe, or my home wasn't safe, or I was bullied growing up and I wasn't physically safe. So those experiences of scarcity, they stick with us and they get hardwired into the nervous system if you don't have that resolution that we talked about, the being seen, safe, and soothed. I'm going to move into our second type of need. Those are our connection needs, the ones that we get um, from our relationships with other people. And so connection needs come with the need to feel seen. Is my experience being understood by another person? Is my reaction or the feelings that I'm having in response to that experience, are they seen as valid? Are they seen as they matter? That say you fall and you scrape your knee and you're like, no, my knee actually really hurts, and the person with you says, no, your knee doesn't actually hurt. You're just being a baby about it. I'm minimizing your pain. And then come to find out, I actually had like a broken knee. I'm just making this up as an example, but um, how many times does that happen in our life when we're saying, no, this thing that happened to me, it really, really, really hurts. And then how often is that experience being minimized or shamed or blamed, or just get over it, or stop being a baby, or stop asking for attention? Um, the connection needs are defined by someone who has empathy for your experience, by someone who is tuned in and connected. They are present with what you are feeling, what you are experiencing. And it's this idea of like, oh, I'm felt, I'm known. Some evidence that this need was not met for you consistently are if there are a lot of shame spots in your life, areas that are just like, it just feels like a hot potato, like these feelings are just so intolerable and I have to get rid of them, and I can't sit with it. It's too painful. That's kind of what shame feels like. Shame feels like hiding. Shame feels like there's something wrong with me for existing. Um, if there's a lot of blame or defensiveness, either so blame going outwards, like I have to shift and blame someone else when I feel a certain way, or blame going inward, which is criticism, self criticism, or the experience of being criticized, maybe feeling defensive if you are someone that experiences a lot of defensiveness. All of these are signs that your connection needs were not met. And if you go on the journey of getting those connection needs met and learning how to do them for yourself, then those symptoms of shame and blame and criticism and defensiveness, those will all start to get smaller over time as you learn to validate and be with yourself. The next category of needs are joy needs. So, our needs for joy are the need to feel like someone is delighted to be with me. It's the need to feel worthy, that I'm chosen, that I'm special, that you want to be with me. People who feel like they want to meet my needs. So if I feel like my needs are a burden and I'm scared to ask for those needs to be met, if I'm scared to tell people what I need, that's probably an indication that my joy needs were not available to me for me consistently. If I feel like I have to earn affection, like I remember for the longest time, um, I was not allowed to like sit down and rest and like enjoy my time until all of my to-do list was done. And so that need to be productive before I was allowed to rest was actually a sign of my joy needs not being met. And that was a sign of me behaving out of unworthiness because I didn't think that I deserved to rest when I needed it, or simply because I needed rest. But there was something that I had to do, a result that I had to achieve before I was allowed to rest. Moving into the next type of need is emotional safety. So, emotional safety is one that can be really confusing for people because it's so normal to see in friend groups and families a lot of emotional unsafety. And it's actually the emotional unsafety is seen as like being cool or being, a way of being that is valid. And so it's really interesting. But when we're thinking about emotional safety, we want to think about, do I know where I stand with someone? So, like, if someone ghosts me and they just don't respond to me when I ask them a question, that brings a lot of emotional unsafety to my environment because it leaves things hanging in the air. There's unclarity, there's confusion, and that actually activates my nervous system and it's going to tell me, wait, something's not emotionally safe. Do I know what's expected of me? And are those expectations fair? So there's a lot of times when parents maybe had certain treatment growing up, or they don't have their needs met, that they're expecting kids to do things that are beyond what a child that age should be doing, whether it's caring for the house or caring for other kids or caring for themselves. If a parent needs to work a lot, or if a parent ends up being sick, like a parent with a chronic illness and isn't able to really fully care for the child appropriately, and that child needs to learn to be really independent at an early age, that can create a lot of emotional unsafety for the child because that child is growing up too fast. Another idea of being emotionally safe is being safe from sarcasm, being safe from passive aggression. My gosh, try one more time. Being safe from passive aggressive comments, being safe from bullying, from criticism, from put downs, from being judged. All of those things register in your nervous system as threat. Whether people are joking or not, it registers as threat and it creates a sense of emotional unsafety. And these are the things that are so common in family circles. I see it all the time, I experience it all the time, and that's something that can be threat activating and putting you out of that, out of your flow zone, moving out of your regulation space. And that's something that is, once you start to recognize, ooh, that actually really doesn't feel good in my body, that really doesn't feel safe. That's something that can help you recognize and step into that worthiness. There's also this idea in emotional safety of, is there enough to go around? So this can happen in big families a lot, where there's only one mom and one dad, but maybe there's 10 kids, and there's just not enough adult presence to fully be able to meet the needs of all the kids. Or this can happen in single family homes when, say, mom and dad are separated and there's one parent, but that one parent is working three jobs and trying to taxi the family around and trying to meet everyone's needs. And the reality is we need a community of support to meet the needs of a child appropriately. And so there are lots of really practical situations where maybe there wasn't just enough time, attention, energy to go around for that family. And so the kids end up growing up with this sort of scarcity around being able to take up space, and being have like that there is enough for me that I can receive because there's enough. So some other things that you can think about with emotional safety is families with triangulation that replaces intimacy. So triangulation is when I'm going to come to you and we're going to gossip about another person, and this gossip brings us closer. So the connection is happening over the gossip and being upset with someone else. And we call that a fear bond. So I'm bonding with a person over a negative intention instead of bonding with a person over a positive intention. So a positive intention would be bonding with you over joy, bonding with you over love, over shared interests, over shared experiences. Those are the things that create positive bonds of joy and love and connection. And in a lot of families, we see triangulation, which is bonding over a negative intention, and that replaces intimacy. Sarcasm replacing connection. It's really a common thing for people to kind of do like put downs and jokes, especially in friend groups and in circles. Sometimes there's not that idea of being respectful, and it those sorts of passive aggression can register as threat. And so if you I also want to give space for, like, maybe you truly don't feel threatened by those things or it doesn't bother you, um, and that's okay. This isn't a one size fits all rule for everyone. But if you're noticing that your feelings are hurt when you're engaging in these relationships, and you're noticing it's connected to sarcasm being present, connected to passive aggressive treatment or bullying or criticism, and that's bothering you, and that just feels like it's not sitting well in your body, it's probably because a part of you believes that's what's happening. Like, that the joke isn't a joke. That's how you're being seen. That's how you're being treated. And so right now we're just at a step of recognition and understanding that something is happening, and it's not sitting well. It's something that doesn't feel good. Next, I'm going to move into something called nurture needs. Nurture needs are um, just really think about sort of like a mothering figure. And I'm thinking about, I have a toddler. I am going to offer a lot of nurture to that toddler, but we all have nurture needs across the whole lifetime. And so, one of the ways that we can nurture is by playing. So, playing is when we try new things with creativity and without pressure. So, play just doesn't have to be like dolls or cars or playing a video game in the way that we typically think of play, but play can be taking an acting class and having it be just a place where you try something new, or maybe it's taking an art class, or maybe it's just showing up and having the ability to try new combinations without pressure. Another way to access nurture is, do I have comfort available to me when I get upset? Do I know how to comfort myself when I'm upset? Or do I feel like I need to jump out of my skin? Do I have people that I can call that are going to listen to me and hear me and offer that comfort, that soothing? It is access to affection, whether that's being held or hugged or getting appropriate touch. Sometimes I even use a weighted blanket because it simulates to the nervous system. It offers a hugging feeling, and it's a way that you can get those nurture needs and give them to yourself, but you can also get them from other people too. Um, Nurture needs are also being showed that your emotions matter. So, kind of connected to the idea of being validated, just that if I'm experiencing a feeling of pain, that pain matters and that pain is being taken seriously, and it's being handled like it is real. So, some ideas of what might be getting in the way of nurture needs are households that are overly serious or strict. Maybe there's really, really high expectations for the kids or family members, how they behave, that aren't maybe giving space for the messiness that humans can often bring. Maybe it could happen with parents that were absent or withdrawn emotionally. So, either being physically not there, or parents that just maybe didn't have those skills of being emotionally present. They have their own stuff and they didn't know how to meet your needs. So, the generational cycle continues. It could be withholding as punishment. That's something that I've witnessed is, okay, if you are not behaving like a good boy or a good girl, then the parent is going to withdraw love. Love gets removed, affection gets removed, presence gets removed, as punishment for the child not behaving a desired way. So that's a way that nurture needs can be missing. One more thing is that emotions or perspectives, if they are outside of the realm of what the family sees as normal and the family's way of doing things, then there's potential for the black sheep of the family, for them to be shamed, for their feelings to be dismissed, for them to get punished even for thinking and doing and perceiving differently from the way the family sees and does things. And so, nurture needs are the ability to show up and have my experience. And when pain happens, is the parent figure capable of being present with me and being able to offer those comforts and those affections, even if my pain is being caused by something the parent doesn't understand? I have two left. So the next one is going to be belonging needs. So belonging needs are, do I have a team? Do I have people in my corner? Do I have a seat at the table? Do I have a community of support? And here's something with belonging needs is not just what do I have, but what do I bring to the group? So am I being valued for what I can contribute? So each person has their own unique gifts. Some of them might be tuned and cultivated, and you know what they are. But for other people, maybe you're still working on figuring out what it is you do bring to a group. It is through being a part of relationships in a group that we find out what is good about us. We find out what is valuable about us. And so when we go without having a supportive group, without having our belonging needs met, we can get stuck in arrested development. I can't help but think about like Pete Davidson. He's always in these movies about his life where he's saying, I'm an adult, but I never actually grew up. And his dad passed away when he was in 9/11. And I just think about like, oh, that belonging need to develop his sense of manhood and graduating into that adulthood is missing from his life. And you see these stories of him being an adult and like struggling to figure out what that means. It can happen from a lack of support. It can happen from, single family homes. It can happen from families that are absent or families that don't know how to meet those belonging needs, because there are lots of families that exist that stay together, but they don't offer the emotional needs for the environment for healthy development to happen. There are things like engagement in sports and other activities in the community that can help fill in the needs of those gaps. We call those resiliency factors. So sometimes maybe those aren't met in the home, but they can be met in the community. And so that can help fill in the gaps. Having friends modeled to you, so meaning that when you were growing up, did your parents have healthy friendships, and did you engage with seeing your parents having healthy friendships? And then also, as I was growing up, especially in those teen years, were you allowed to make your own friendships and have your own friend group? And was that available to you? Maybe in high school, if you had a hard time finding a friend group, or if there were things going on in your life where you weren't able to really have a group that belonged to you, for whatever reason. That friend group when you were a teenager means so much to you learning about how to belong in the world. And so the family is the first group that we ever belong to. And this isn't me just like breaking down parents and shaming them and all these things. The reality is there is no person who grows up with a perfect family. And we all have unmet needs from those dynamics. And it's not a shame thing. It's not a blame thing. It's just, I want to look at it objectively. And that's what this list is for, is to show, can you look at something and say, was that present or was it not present? Or maybe it was present some of the way. And all it is an opportunity to look at what those needs, the unfilled needs might be, and try to understand myself through the lens of how having that unmet need may have affected my coping skills, how it may have affected why I am the way that I am, and the hope that if I go on the journey and get those needs met, then I will be able to heal and be able to work through the things, the behaviors that I just don't understand why I keep doing this thing. And I will be able to move through it and get to the other side of it because my needs are satisfied and I'm operating out of worthiness. The very last section I want to talk about today are autonomy needs. So, a lot of the needs that I talked about were kind of needs of being able to have someone come into you, have comfort, something that's added on to you. Autonomy needs are more about stepping out. So, in order to step out, one of the things that I really need is to be affirmed, to have an identity about what I'm good at and how I can contribute to the group. Another autonomy need is to have a voice. So, if I speak out that I want something, that I need something, that those desires are respected and they are listened to. That doesn't mean I get what I want every single time, but it means that I'm responded to as if my desires and my perspective matters. So there's a certain amount of respect, I think is what I'm trying to say. Belief that you have the power to change things. You can also call this personal agency. So if something's going wrong, do I have the problem to figure out an answer and a solution and try out that solution and have power to make my situation better? Another thing is power to be taken seriously. So are my thoughts and my beliefs and my problems, are they legitimately considered, or are those things being minimized as if they don't matter? The need to try and fail is a huge autonomy need. A lot of us have a lot of shame and pain around rejection and failure when we tried new things. And so that need to try and fail is so important for growth, because so many people, they want to start their own business, or they want to take a class of some sort, or they want to put themselves out there in a new way, and they are crippled by the fear of failure. And so if we rewire that need to try and fail as an autonomy need, then we can move past that and we can move into developing the things that we need to develop, the things that we want to try in order for us to step into our purpose. There's a need to have boundaries. Am I allowed to say no? Do I know what belongs to me and what does not belong to me? That's why during the meditation, I offered some guidelines about around what are we responsible, what are we not responsible for. This is a big one that I notice a lot of people struggle with, is not just the saying no, but what do I want to say yes to? And if we start thinking about boundaries in terms of what can I say yes to, it will transform the way you show up to life. Lastly, the need to feel supported. That's also why we included that in the meditation, but the need to have the resources and access to step out of my comfort zone, to eliminate and minimize the fear of what might go wrong, and to put attention on what could go right is such an important skill of being able to step out and do what is inside of you to do. And that's ultimately what is so important to me about the autonomy needs is, do I have what I need so I can do what I'm here to do? Some things that get in the way of autonomy is when we grew up in an environment where we weren't allowed to express our no, when we weren't allowed to adventure and do things that felt a little bit risky, if there was a lot of bubbles maybe put around us, or if we had helicopter parents, that can stunt autonomy needs. There's something called emotional incest. So if parents didn't have a good relationship, sometimes kids get what's called parentified. They get put in a situation to be a stand-in parent, kind of like emotional confidant for the parent. And if that's something that happened to you or to your siblings, that can prevent you from stepping out and having those autonomy experiences developing as a teenager and even as a young adult. Some signs that autonomy needs have not been met are disconnection from what I want. So if you ask yourself, like, what would really light me up? What would make me excited? What would make me feel just so at home and ready to go for the day? And if you can't answer that question, if it's just a big blank, like, I don't know, I don't know what I want, that is a really clear sign that autonomy needs were not developed. And that's something that we want to work on together. People pleasing. If you are asked, someone's asking you to do something and you say you'll do it, and then later you're like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I say I would do it? That's a sign of people pleasing. And we've all been there. We've all done it. I still do it sometimes. And, learning how to recognize in the moment what you actually do want, what you actually do need, and what you are willing to do, and being able to commit to something that you can feel confident, you'll trust that you still want to do later. That's a whole skill set. Taking over responsibility or taking under responsibility. So this is kind of like two sides of a flip coin. So if I'm in a situation and I have a lot of anxiety over how people are going to respond to me and how to move forward inside of the situation, it can come from a feeling of I am taking responsibility for things that actually belong to other people. And so when we're taking over responsibility, there's that benefits us in some way. That oftentimes comes from an environment where our needs were not met. And so we learn that I can be powerful if I take the responsibility for the whole thing. And so there are some ways where that actually works for us, but at some point, that taking over responsibility is going to work against us. It's going to steal from our joy. It's going to keep us from doing the things we actually want to be doing. And then the other side is taking under responsibility. So if I just never learned to show up, if I just never learned what belongs to me and how to feel powerful and how to try new things, if I never learned that I could do hard things, that's taking an under responsibility. If I'm operating inside of a lot of blame, if I'm operating like the situation that I'm in, if I look around me and I see and I think it's everyone else's fault, that is a sign that I'm operating in under responsibility. And I want to learn how to take ownership for myself over my life so that I can feel powerful, because where we put blame is where we have power. So if I'm blaming outward, that means all of the power is outside of me. But if I put blame and take responsibility over what is healthy to take responsibility over, then that's where I have all the power. And then the last thing that we actually already talked about this, but the high stakes around trying new things and making mistakes. So that important idea of when there's something new before me, something that is going to stretch me outside of my comfort zone. Am I able to try new things? And do I have permission to make mistakes while I'm doing it? And do I have permission to learn and grow through the process? And so this is all of these things that I've brought up today are a summary of different needs that we can have met or go unmet. So here are our takeaways for today on stepping into your worthiness. One is your worthiness is the treatment you are available for you. If you are available for criticism, for judgment, for being talked down to, then that means I'm stepping out into unworthiness. But if I'm available for goodness, for connection, for nurture, then I'm stepping into my worthiness. Sometimes we aren't aware of the spaces we are allowed to be worthy. And so every single person has an experience of unmet needs. And often those unmet needs explain behaviors that we want to change, that maybe we don't like about ourselves. And so when we can come from a place of worthiness, understanding what our needs are and what treatment we can make ourselves available to, we can start to see transformation in those behaviors. And then number 3, worthiness is recognizing those needs, deciding you are available to have them met, and then go on the journey to find it. Thank you so much for your time and attention today, and I will see you next time.